So over the years, what have been some of the biggest learning lessons when preparing for peak, communicating expectations internally, anything that you wish you knew a couple years ago that you know now?
So for Glossier, a few years ago, and this was a little before my time, we had a peak that came in. This is before Ocean X's time as well, but came in and way over forecast. So blew out expectations, and I believe the company was looking at like a multi-week backlog. And that was a combination of over forecast and some underperformance by the partner at that time. So the following year was my first peak with Glossier. Not my first peak, but my first peak with Glossier. Understanding that was the feedback internally was we can't have that happen again, where we don't understand necessarily what our capacity is and what our partner's ability to ship is. So we had started with Ocean X earlier that year, and we engaged in a series of stress tests. I believe we did 3 in the fall leading into peak. And a stress test is something very normal that most fulfillment centers do, and is essentially designed to fail, right? So you want to simulate a peak, a true peak, like way it's going to be in the building, right? So you may hold orders back for 1 or 2 days and build a backlog, and then attempt to ship, whether that's 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 orders in a brief period of time. That period of time lining up with the equivalent number of hours in, whatever your peak period is going to be. So if on a normal day we may ship 50 orders an hour, but on a peak day we need to ship 500 orders an hour, we will seek to ship 500 orders an hour for multiple hours during that stress test. And by and large, that should fail, at least in the beginning. You should find things that don't work, because what works at 50 orders an hour does not work at 500 orders an hour always. So you will find traffic congestion with the number of pickers. You'll find you don't have enough trailers. You can't turn trailers at your dock doors fast enough. You'll find that your systems perhaps can't push orders that fast, as fast as you need to the WMS. So you find all of these things, and it gives you an opportunity to fix them. And because you've done all of this, you can feel very comfortable when the actual peak period comes. And then you can also make everybody else in the organization feel comfortable, because you can point to multiple instances leading into peak where you have essentially done it, and you can feel confidence that your partner knows what they're doing, that it's not going to be chaos or much chaos, and that we will get through peak, and we have the capability to do what we need to do. And that is arguably probably the biggest lesson learned, that you have to do these things to build confidence so that you yourself can be confident and the rest of your business can be confident.
Fantastic. So follow up to that, Rob, you work with multiple brands and clients. Now, what would you say, I don't want to say mistake, but what are some common mistakes that brands make when they're preparing for peaks?
Yeah, so I'd look at it as opportunities, right? Opportunities for change. And it's really around, I keep berating the point around forecasting, but having that forecasting in place is crucial. If you think about any operation that happens out there, they're going to base what you plan to do based on historical, if they don't have any forecast, right? That's the general way you'd operate. Now, if there's a ramp up and it's for a period of time, perhaps, or you're seeing a massive growth in scale, that's where forecasting and having an idea of what it is that we need to do is crucial important. The success of Ocean X, the success of our clients, also the success of the consumer at the end of the day, who is the individuals that receive that product. So along with that, forecasting is also around ensuring you've done a complete due diligence planning. You've got your inventory on hand. You also have thought about, Joe and team talk about stress testing, like that is around the idea that what happens if, right? So if there's a disaster, there's a situation, what's your capability at the end of the day? So they're the different components that go into it. But I think if you ask me very generally, I'd say preparation for peak is really about collaborating, about ensuring both parties, the client, Ocean X, collaborate to such a degree that the forecasting, the planning, the execution is not seamless, because situations are going to come up, but it's more so as streamlined as possible and as collaborative and open as possible as well. So when things come up, you have the ability to adjust, you have the ability to flex.
I think it's also, I don't want to jump in on you, Rap, but I think it's also important to say that like everybody has to try and be reasonable at a very unreasonable time of year. So if I ask OceanX, if I tell OceanX, you'll need to ship based on our forecast 10,000 orders a day, let's say, and our forecast comes in, or the actual like charge, the actual amount of work that comes in is double that. Well, I can't really yell at Rav too much for not being able to ship 20,000 orders a day when they didn't staff for that, hire for that, build for that. You know, all I can hope at that point is they do their best, but and be stressed out on my own. But you know, you can't freak out too much. Have to try and be as reasonable as you can, because these are difficult sort of things to pivot on. You can't just snap your fingers and hire an extra 100 or 200 people. So that being reasonable during peak is going to be really critical as well.